No matter what your dreams or obstacles, you're not alone, and you have the power to change your life and change the world. Join me and inspired freedom-seeking women from around the world as we explore ideas and tools and new methods to live your life your way and serve the world with your unique gifts. And thank you for helping me spread the word of feminine wisdom by subscribing, liking, and sharing your favorite episodes. Hello and welcome to the Freedom Seeker Show, the talk show where we express our experiences as women in a raw and authentic way so that we can empower other women to do the same. Today, I am here with Lisa, and we're gonna dig deep into relationships and money and cash flow and net worth and the number one financial investment you will not regret. So I'm here with Lisa Elle, who is the author of Strut, How to Kick Financial Assets in Sexy Shoes, which is my favorite. So who wouldn't love to, read a book with that has a stiletto like such on the cover? Seriously, it's like an immediate, ooh, yeah, what is this about? She's also a mother of two beautiful girls.
Yes.
She's a wife, and she's a financial planner and certified cash flow specialist. So welcome, Lisa, to the Freedom Seeker Show.
Thanks so much, Yvonne. Thanks so much for having me here.
It is so exciting to have you here because, money, relationships, cash flow, all of this stuff is just one of those things that just never goes away. It's part of our life, always a discussion or not. For some people, for some households, it's maybe not as big of a discussion as it should be. But nevertheless, especially as business owners and women business owners, we really need to have the conversation around our feelings around money, our story box around money. And after reading your wonderful book, I have so many questions for you because I think it's just so amazing. And you break it really down in this book. So first of all, for any one of you who wants to know more about how to kick financial assets, go out and where can they get a copy of your book? Is it on Amazon?
It's on Amazon.
Okay,
yeah,
perfect.
Definitely.
So download or order a copy and get reading in it. I can tell you one thing that I enjoyed a lot about your book. It's just a great sense of humor that you have. It's just so wonderful. I was sitting outside the other day and I literally laughed out loud. Looked around wondering whoa.
Okay, that makes me so happy. That's the happiest thing to hear that because I think humor and just having fun is so important.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Especially you say this a lot in this book, especially when you're talking about financial services, right? Because it can be as dry.
It's so dry.
It's so boring at times. And this is where I met Lisa a long time ago, is in the financial services industry. Yeah. And so we both have had our share of sitting through those meetings that are snoozeville. So I really thought it was a fresh and new approach to just breaking down this stuff for us. But tell me, Lisa, so how long have you been a financial coach or certified financial planner?
Yeah, sure. So a little bit about my background. I started kind of right when I was, 18. I wanted to be a financial planner. It was kind of I wanted to be a financial advisor. It was kind of rare. So I did end up going to Mount Royal and got a diploma in marketing management. And then I started in the financial services industry in 2000. So it's been about 18 years now when I started.
Amazing.
And I got my CFP in 2005. So I've been doing this for a while, working with clients and self-employed this whole time, working with clients that way. So.
Yeah. So I would imagine the first 5 years were probably a little tough.
Oh, the first 5 years. Yeah, the first 17 years were a little tough. Let's just be honest here. It's still an ongoing battle. And I mean, I think it's different than, and I I'm not slighting men at all, but I think they have the ability to just dive right into their careers. I think as women, like one of the reasons why I became a financial advisor was because I knew I would have that flexibility with a job if I were to ever have kids. So of course I did get married. I did end up having a couple of children. And so I was able to have that flexibility with my job, which was so important to me. Even back when I was 18, I knew I wanted that flexibility because I knew I wanted to have it all. I wanted to have a career and I wanted to have kids and I wanted to have all these things, right? So,
well, do you think you talk about this in your book on how your dad or how your family, held these budget meetings?
Oh, my dad, yes.
Funny. Do you think that was a big influence on you wanting to be a financial advisor? Or
funny enough, looking back, maybe that was some of it, but at the end of the day, no. My dad and I are so opposite. But at the same time, I do get a lot of qualities from him. Yeah. And so the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree that way.
Yeah.
But I think it might have been part of it because he did invite me actually to a stock course. We did like options trading and online trading when I was 18.
Wow.
And so I sat through this like literally weekend seminar as an 18-year-old learning how to trade options and even trade period, the stock market. So
was that when you fell in love with it?
Yeah, and that's when I fell in love with it. I was like, wow, this is kind of fun. And ideally I wanted to be the New York stockbroker, all fancy and that is not how my life turned out at all because I immediately decided I do not want to trade stocks for any other person. So I didn't. But but that's kind of where the love of the financial industry kind of grew from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you explored it from there. So you went, you also say that becoming an insurance advisor first was kind of your entryway into the whole industry. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that and how that all came about? So you were 18, you graduated, and you went straight into insurance.
So when I was 20, I went right into insurance, like learning a bit about the industry, realizing like how you start in the financial services industry is kind of a lot of the times through insurance and just kind of getting your feet wet and doing that kind of thing. So that is where I started, was in the insurance side. And then learning more and getting into more of the holistic planning. So dealing with the full financial picture. And in reality, the full financial picture is so much about, the cash flow planning and, really tying in your goals and hopes and dreams into your money and connecting all of that, right? So we start always with risk management being insurance, right? So insurance is a huge part of that. So I'm kind of glad I stumbled into that and realizing, because I didn't know what an insurance policy was when I was 20 years old. There's no way.
Yeah. Well, and I think being so young, being introduced to it came with its own challenges. I'm certain of it because I was the same way. I started I was 21 or something when I became an insurance advisor, which, let me tell you, is a tough sport to follow when you are 21 knocking on people's doors trying to tell them about life and insurance and all of this stuff. So I get you on this one. But at the same time, I feel like this was one of those lessons that I've learned that really prepared me to have a different viewpoint on the meaning of life. Seriously, right? Like it confronted me with some of the topics very early in my career that most people don't like to talk about. And so I think that was a very important piece which led you to essentially, preparing this book and writing and helping women. So can you think of a time or a defining moment when you decided and really committed to wanting to help women define their relationship with money and really dive into that genre?
Oh, 100%. There was a defining moment for me. It was about 2010. It was Christmas. And I remember sitting on my couch that Christmas. I had 2 little kids. And so we didn't really go anywhere or do much. And it was freezing out, as it is in Canada usually. And I just remember reading book after book after book and just being on this deep quest to kind of make sense of everything I'd learned in the financial industry up to that point. Because by then I'd been in the financial industry for 10 years. Yeah. And, maybe best to say dabbling because, at that time I had kids and I wasn't working, 40 hours a week. I might have been doing 20 hours or whatever. But really just diving deep into, okay, what do I believe? Like, what is it really that I believe? Because as you know, when you're in the industry or just in life in general, you're getting thrown everyone's opinions, really, at the end of the day, of every which direction. And you don't know what really you believe because someone will say something and I'm like, okay, that sounds good. But then someone over here says something and that also sounds good. And they're kind of conflicting, right?
Well, not only conflicting, but I've also found that a lot of them are very biased, right?
Of course,
And
especially
so,
when it comes to product or
exactly.
anything like, you know, when money's attached to it too, right? So I had to sit there and kind of like sort through what was my investment philosophy? What was my financial planning philosophy? Like, what do I really want to do with this business? Because at this point now, I mean, at this point, I'm educated up the yin yang with letters behind my name. I have like, my resume looks amazing. I could go get a job anywhere, but that's not going to happen. I basically worked myself out of a job. So I said, okay, what do I want to do here?
Yeah.
And it was like, I really want to help change Canada. I want to help change the world financially. I want people to really just be in a place where they can achieve harmony. And this isn't something at this point I like wasn't even there, right, myself, but I'm like, this is my desire. It was just a desire. So something too to note, I didn't ever have it all together. Even to this day, I sometimes still don't feel like I have it all together. But just making that commitment to like, okay, this is what I want to do in the world. And this is what I want to create. And this is how I want to serve women. That was that defining moment that Christmas. And I said, okay, look, I'm going to write a book. And you know why I wrote the book? It wasn't even really for other women. It was actually for me. It was so I could write out in a clear, methodical way relating to shoes, all about the money beliefs that I have. Because at that point in time, I really was so torn as to which way, you know, how I wanted to take my business.
Yeah.
So this book was actually pivotal in helping me decide on like how I want to grow my business and where I want to take it.
That is so interesting and not surprising to me, because I've been hearing this a lot, that when you start writing a book or you write a program or, you know, the focus really comes together in terms of what do I actually stand for? What do I want to say to the world? How do I want to show up, right? And so, fantastic. Well, it definitely shows through in this book. It's a life work for sure, which leads me right away to one of my first favorite quotes in the book. And let's start out bold, because that's just how we are, right?
Yeah, for sure.
You said in one of your statements in the book, you said, money doesn't change you, it amplifies you. And I literally stopped. When I read that, I was like, whoa, what? And I had to reread it, because, you know, this deep belief around us that we, my money story box, you know, that money changes you, money's bad, you're going to become a bad person if you're wealthy, rich, and all of this stuff. So it really stopped me in my tracks. And I then related it to what I teach in the Leap, which is, you know, we need to start understanding first what our money story is before we can resolve and heal some of those money dilemmas, why we're not attracting more money into your life. So I love that part in your book, and I'm not surprised that that's what I zoned in on. So tell me a little bit more about why you feel money amplifies us rather than changing us.
Well, I think at the end of the day, you know, yeah, I think a lot of people do have misconceptions when you even talk about like having more money, like is evil, right? And I think a lot of people are just raised with that belief. So, but really, I think at the end of the day, if you know, like if you're, you know, a giving person and you give like kind of the kind of coat off your back, so to speak, you're going to be just as generous when you have money as well, right? And I think that's a huge thing. And I know, like right now, would I love to be more generous? Absolutely. I would love to give away more. And going back to even as far as like building a business, one of the greatest reasons to build a business is so you can give away more,
so you
right?
Can give away.
If that's what you want. And I mean, if that's not what you want, that's fine too. Like you really do get to create this life that you live, right?
Yeah.
But giving, I think, is just such a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
And really just, I mean, it feels always good for the giver, you know, and going in step with the receiving as well. But I mean, I think as a giver, you're just going to like that's just going to amplify your whole life, right? So I think it's totally true, because you see people too who've won the lottery and they don't change much from who they were before, right? I just think it's like one of those almost like, you know, unspoken truths that's just what money does for you, right? Because it's that energy of who you really are at the core, right?
Yeah, you got to know why you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
And you know, giving away money or acknowledging or understanding that when you have more, you're also able to give more, is such a big piece. And I think especially for women, it is something that once I got that, like I truly got that, it made all the difference in the world in how I looked at why I'm building a business and this worthiness around it, like that I'm worthy of actually having a successful business. Because it was in a money workshop actually that the facilitator stopped me and asked, she said, well, how much right now are you giving away? Like, how much right now are you volunteering and giving away? And I'm like, nothing, because I barely have anything to pay my own bills. And she says, exactly. So what if you actually, had more in your life? Would you be able to give more? And I said, yeah. And that was a changing moment for me, for sure. So I love that quote very much in your book. So money doesn't change you; it amplifies you.
Yes.
So you also, and this is really early in your book, Lisa, you talk about something that I think is also very important for women to hear, and that is, I'm not perfect, and I love my non-perfection as it is. I can relate to women everywhere.
Yes.
I thought that was brilliant, simply because, this perfection piece is what we're often get not enough, right? We're not enough just as we are. So we constantly are aiming for perfection. So how did you get to this raw vulnerability to actually,
print that
statement and everything that goes with that statement? That just made me laugh out loud.
Yeah,
like,
but
seriously.
being like super, super like real with you here right now and the audience and anyone who's listening to this, it's because what it actually took was 5 years of life coaching for me to be able to publish this book and hit print on the manuscript. So, like what I wrote is 100% true, but I mean, it takes so long to get to that place to be able to be authentic and be confident in who you are, even with your imperfections.
Yes. And
yeah, it took a lot of work to get to that place because, and going back to kind of even my story a bit was, that 2010, I was 30 years old, right? And up until then, my life was perfect. And by that, I mean, I have a fantastic family. I was turning 30, and I think this is where some of the frustration and kind of like, is this all there is to life? Kind of came up because I was sitting there that Christmas in my beautiful new home. We had 2 cars. We just got back from a few weeks to Maui, and we had, at that time we had like so many going on. We have like investment properties, and we had everything. Like we had everything. And here I was 30, living in my dream home with my 2.5 kids and my 1.5 dog.
White picket fence.
Yeah, the white picket fence. And I was like, okay, so guess what? I completed the checklist of life, and now what? It was literally like, now what? Okay, so I was able to accomplish all these things. I got a degree, I had this, and I'm like, now what? Mm-hmm. And realizing that none of that stuff filled me up. Like none of it. Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love my kids, and I love like my home, and I love all these things in my life, but it didn't actually like fill me up. It's not something you can like hang your hat on. And besides, like technically all those things are outside of you and they can be taken away. Like your external world can be taken away at any moment for whatever reason. And it's not even yours to control. So it goes back to being like, okay, well, what is it about me? Again, the internal, the self-mastery, all of that, right? That had to come together. So that was like the place of the frustration. And that's where I'm like, man, this is me. And I talk about this in my book. I talk about like how I've like, I went in to, give birth to my second daughter and like how much I weighed. It's in the book. You have to buy it. But I'm very authentic with how much I weighed at my highest and at my lowest. And I mean, like, there's like 100-pound difference. Yes. And even right now, as I say this morning, I like weighed myself and I'm like, oh my goodness, this summer I've gained like at least 10 pounds. So, I mean, you go through those fluctuations and it's never going to be perfect. And in my head, I still want it to be perfect, but it's not. Yeah. And being like, okay, it's okay. And I can still make a difference. I can still put my message out there. I can still do all these things and keep working toward those goals. And they're going to be the moving target, right?
Well, like I said, when we started the show, the reason I have this show is because I wanted authenticity and I wanted women to share their experiences in an unfiltered way. Because when we do that, we empower other women to do the same and to actually stop the pretense for a moment and really just look honestly at your own life. And that's what you've done. Like by making that statement right at the beginning of your book, it allowed me to break down my walls and stop reading it from a point of view of what's she trying to like tell me.
Yes.
And just lay down the walls and say, this is funny. This is hilarious. Like, let's just read this for the fun of it. And we talk about fun a lot in here. And, you know, how we just need to laugh at our own jokes once in a while and just...
I do that all the time.
and just really enjoy life a little bit more and not take everything so serious. So I really appreciated that. And I think that is so important for all women to hear is life isn't perfect. And, you know, wherever you are in your business, there's always going to be challenges.
Always.
And there's always going to be shit that's going to come up. So, you know, the more your inner world is okay, the easier you can cope with everything else that's happening surrounding you. So I loved how you said that. It's really cool. In that context of perfectionism, you also talk about forgiveness and, you know, forgiving yourself and how especially women struggle with that. And you talk about, I don't know if this is a made up word by you or someone else, but money mercy.
I made that up.
Okay, cool. I love it. Money mercy. Can you tell us a little bit more about money mercy?
Well, it was really just a term I was trying to come up with when I was writing my book to like forgive yourself. And I was like, I need a cute like term I can coin. Haven't really coined it, but you have now, so that's great. But yeah, money mercy, like just forgiving yourself, like for all the money mistakes. Like I wrote a blog recently. It was called like, you cannot waste money. There's no such thing as wasting money. And it's true. There's no such thing as wasting money. You can be out of integrity with your choices and that ends up in wasting money. So like if you're buying something you really don't need and you're just buying it to fill a hole inside of you, then yeah, that's going to be out of integrity in the long run. And that purchase will never make you happy and do what it's supposed to do. But you can also purchase with integrity and purchase with things that are going to actually, you know, be for your highest good and really just like encourage you and help you grow regardless of the ticket price of the item. Right. Yeah. So is that...
It does. And it ties into another thing that I really liked, which was the clarity around your purpose and your life vision and how that, like you had this major insight in your book where you talk about how suddenly the alignment of your goals and your vision for your business really helped you become also very clear on your choices and decisions regarding spending. Right. And that's essentially what I hear you say again right now.
For sure. Yeah. Because I think the more you're the more you're in integrity with yourself and the goals you've set for yourself, the more you're going to spend in integrity, the more you're going to only purchase things that are actually going to be for your highest good. Yeah. When you have no clue, when you're like that ship without the rudder circling around in the bay, you know, you're just going to be buying randomly and spending like randomly.
Yeah,
and
trying to fulfill
something and trying to get clear from spending all this money. Yeah. It's never going to happen. Yeah. And so I think, all of it just comes into alignment nicely. And it all just like, you know, you really do start spending from a place of empowerment, which is so cool. Yeah. To be in that flow is like the coolest thing.
I agree. I have to experience that. Michael Beckwith has a quote that says, you know, pain pushes until vision pulls. And that's how I felt when you said that in your book, that alignment of goals, because it's true. Like until that point, it keeps being painful until you have a vision. And once you have a vision, everything just seems to pull. And you talk about it in terms of flow. He talks about it in terms of pulling. So but you both are saying the same thing, I think. So that's really, really cool. Speaking of flow, you right now are hosting a program, right? A 10-day program that talks about all the elements of to get into the flow. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm doing a 10-day deep dive intensive online for women, and it's called Appreciate. I'm calling it Appreciate. So it's just a deep dive into really elevating, up-leveling your life in all areas of your life. We're going to do like 3 or 4 days on money, but it's going to go into everything because a lot of it is about clarity and getting into flow with relationships and kind of just like being able to take your whole life and up-leveling all parts of it, even incrementally, and just being able to get to that next level really just takes step by step, right? Yeah. It doesn't all happen at once. So I think this is going to be a great place just to kind of kick off. I'm running it right now just because it's kind of like heading into September. And you know, it's kind of like I always think new schools, yours are kind of like the new year.
I'm with you.
So I always think, September, I'm going to get like right back into it. So that's why I'm launching it now.
Yeah.
And it's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
I've got lots of cool content and everything.
I'm excited. I've signed up for it right away.
Awesome.
I'm like, I want to be part of this. I want to experience the money makeover. There's still, despite of all the work I've done as well, like there's always still things you can learn and improve. And I think, education in general should always be part of
for sure
of your life. You
never know who is going to speak to you in a certain way or just say something. Yeah. And like, you just never know what the experience, like when you open yourself up to an experience, like what that's going to be. Right.
Totally. And you might have heard that same message 100 times, but just the way you're presenting it might actually
click or something.
And go, whoa, it's like first time I've ever heard that.
I know. And that's why I love, and I have a lot of coaches in my life. And I do love them all because they all bring different things. It's kind of like, well, you have a library of books because they all are speaking to different parts. Yeah. And it's kind of like when you read the same book 10 times over, you pull something new out of it each time.
Every time.
So. Yeah.
Movies, books, same thing. Yeah. Like Eat, Pray, Love. I've watched it. I don't know how many times now.
Me too.
And every time I watch it, I'm like, oh, I missed that the first 100 times I've seen it. So it's really cool. Yeah. You're right. There was something else that I wanted to chat with you about that leads into this as well, which is this whole comfort zone piece, right? Like, stretching yourself, educating, and all this. And you said that in normal, comfort exists and possibilities dwindle. So normal doesn't inspire or create. And I thought, she drops like so many cool things in here. It's like, this is so cool. So you made up another word.
I probably did. I make up a lot of words.
Comparativitis.
Yeah. It's true. Comparativitis. Yeah, for sure.
And you speak in your chapter on flip-flops. You talk about how this is really challenging for women too. And I too believe that, men compete, women compare. So this comparing business. So how does that, when we compare or when we're people pleasers, and stay in this normal comfort zone, always wanting to just make everyone feel comfortable and normal around us, how does that hold us back in terms of our cash flow and our money management?
Yeah, well, for sure. For starters, it takes you off of your path, right? The second you go into a comparing state of mind and judging and all those other things, you're immediately pulled off of your goals, off of your vision, right? So instantly, you're not even going to be focused on what you need to be focused on to get to whatever you're trying to accomplish, right? Yeah. So of course it's going to mess up and it's going to show up in other areas of your life. It's going to show up in like your weight, your skin, your money, your bank account, like everything, your business, right? So, I mean, prime example, I look online sometimes, right? Because this typically, by the way, happens on Facebook or Instagram and you see, oh, look how nice. They're on a yacht right now in the Mediterranean. How lucky for them. And then you're like, oh my goodness, I need to be there. I'm not there yet.
Yeah.
And then you're just comparing and then you're coming up with excuses and it's just a big colossal waste of time for starters. But it really does pull you energetically off of your path.
It does.
And then you have to take just that much more energy to get back into focus. And I mean, that's where like taking time to like, when we talk about creating our lives and journaling and meditating and prayer, whatever it is that you do to get back to you. And the way I personally like to think of it is I like to think of my life as a stage. And it's like any time, like, and I am the star of the stage and you are the star of your stage and everyone has their own show, right? And when I'm sitting on Facebook and, beautiful lady in the Mediterranean comes onto my stage in her yacht, it's now the show's about her now. And in reality, the show needs to be about you because going back to when you take care of yourself and when you can, love yourself and come from that place of you're worth it and you have self-love, that's when you can really create and give to the world your gifts. You can't do that when you're sitting there sharing the stage and giving all the spotlight to the lady on the yacht that you want to be with, right? Yeah. Or like be like, right? So you're comparing yourself instantly, the spotlight's off of you and you can't share your gifts with the audience and the audience being like the world, right? So I like the stage analogy because sometimes those people who come in and like, whenever you get into that comparing or comparativitis, as I say, you need to have those people with like the old fashioned, like, in a theater, like the hook where they'd like pull them off the stage. you need to like pull some of these people in your head. Again, this is just all in your head. Pull them off the stage and say, no, look, what's this show about here?
Yeah.
Like, what do I really want to, really present here? And honestly, I think it just takes a lot of practice too
I was just going to ask
faster.
You that. How do you, do you have any tips for us?
Oh, I do.
How do you do that?
On how to get out of comparativitis.
Yeah.
And I'm going to because we're talking social media here. I think that's a huge one for us women right now. One of my biggest tips is I literally have 0 notifications on my phone. Yeah. And I'm sure that ticks off a few people watching this right now, but I have no notifications for texting, no notifications for anything, Facebook, nothing. I have to actually go into my apps to actually check them because people are like, why did you get back to me? I'm like, well, I don't check it 24/7. Yeah. And I think it's like just training yourself and being like, what am I missing that's going to be so important? Like I always joke, but if someone's dead, they're not coming back. So getting a text that they're dead and catching it 5 minutes later isn't really going to change things. And I joke about that, but it's reality, right? Okay.
See what I'm talking about?
I sell life insurance. So that's why I joke about death all the time. Okay. You have to get over that.
Yeah, totally. I love it. And I totally agree with you. Oh my God. Like we are so tied up with our phones, and there was a 4-year period I completely signed off of Facebook for that comparativitis reason. Yeah, because I'm like, I couldn't stand it. I was getting miserable with every time I was looking on Facebook. And that goes back to what we talked about earlier when I didn't have my own vision. Mm-hmm. And I think that when you aren't deeply rooted in your why and you don't have that deep vision for where you want your life to go, that's when that comparing and that people pleasing is especially difficult.
And you're triggered instantly.
You're triggered instantly.
Always.
Right? Like I loved your comparison with the yacht and the, like seeing someone else. I actually had that experience again this summer, and now thankfully I'm able to turn it around. Where I was looking at all these beautiful summer pictures of everyone doing like on the lake,
everyone
and
having fun,
doing vacation, and I'm sitting here working. And essentially what I did is I said, no, wait, that's great that they're doing vacation. Why is this coming up for me as a problem? Yes. Maybe I need to take some vacation. And I took some time off right away. So you turned off all of your notifications, and I love that advice. I think that's really, really good tip. Because for some of us, it's just not a reality to completely unsubscribe from social media because of our businesses.
No,
right?
no. I still have all the apps there.
But do you also have like certain times where you only go in and check?
So that's the plan. Well, one of the things that I found I caught myself doing was waking up first thing in the morning and going instantly on my phone, maybe to turn off the alarm, but then it was instantly into, say, checking if you do I have any text messages? Do I have any emails?
Yeah.
Oh no, client called me or emailed me, and now instantly I'd be in a bad mood. Instantly. Because it could be the littlest thing like, oh, client forgot their payment, or, client canceled, or whatever is happening, right? Because business happens, life happens.
Absolutely.
But I'm like, no, I'm much better to deal with a client canceling or a client missing a payment or whatever during like the middle of the day.
Or after you had your coffee.
Yeah, or after I had my coffee, than dealing with it at 4:30 in the morning when I wake up. And I'm like, no. And it instantly put me in a bad mood. It instantly set my day on a downward spiral. So recently I've just been like, no more going on my phone. No more going on my phone till after I've done what I need to do for myself. So it's like, for me, it's like go for a run, do my journaling, have my quiet time, read a good book, right? If that takes a few hours, then go on my phone.
I love that. Yeah, it's a great suggestion. And for those of you who struggle with having your phone by your bedside and not going on your phone, because that takes a lot of willpower. A lot of willpower.
Yeah, it does.
I personally, I had to remove my phone from my bedroom. So my phone actually doesn't make it into the bedroom with me at night. It stays out here. I have it out here, and that serves 2 purposes. When the alarm goes off, I actually have to get up to turn it
That's
off.
Brilliant. That's brilliant.
But it also serves the purpose of not, being tempted to check out Instagram or Facebook.
Oh, yeah.
So great tip. Great tip. Let's see what else I drafted out of your book. This was something I wanted to just inquire a bit more about. You said that the hardest chapter for you to write, or the one you had the most resistance to write, was the cowboy boots. So, by the way,
Oh,
each
yes.
chapter has a shoe attached to it, and then she draws like her story around the shoe of choice. So the cowboy boots is about relationships.
Love, because who doesn't want a cowboy? I mean,
Yeah.
I like that. We're
Yeah.
from Calgary,
We're
so
in Alberta. Yeah.
we have the Stampede. We're supposed to like guys in cowboy boots.
Well, let's be honest. You know, you put a guy in a hot pair of jeans and cowboy boots and a nice
It does.
cowboy hat.
It does work.
Make a difference.
It does work, especially during stuff. It works.
So why was this so hard for you to write?
Oh, well, you know, I don't joke about this. My favorite clients are single clients because they can make decisions and they don't have to check with their spouse. And I joke about that. But the truth is that when you have two people who come from two totally different backgrounds, and I mean, we try to get them to get married and have a happy relationship on top of like their beliefs. And I mean, so think about your parents. Well, your two parents came from totally different background, and you know, his two parents did, or hers, or whoever, right? Like there's just so many people involved literally in your relationship, financially speaking and otherwise too, right? But there's just so many different sets of beliefs that you've had from generations past, as well as outside influences in your current day. And really, it's like, I think it's a miracle that, first of all, it's a miracle people even stay together. And of course, you know why money is one of the hardest things, right? Because you're dealing with that on a daily basis. You have two people who have two totally separate visions. Yeah. I mean, ideally great if you and your spouse or partner are on the same track and have the same vision for your life. And I mean, honestly, I think that's ideal. That's, I think, what most of us are looking for. But in reality, I would say 90% or more do not have an exact same vision.
Well, and it would, to even understand if you have a same vision, would require you to talk about it. So you make a suggestion in there that you think it would be great to have like a club where people actually go to as couples and get kind of mentored through the process of talking about money. And I think we should open one of those. Yeah, I do. I have I did a handout a while back. I don't know, it's in my Wealth Spa membership site, but it's like, you know, 24 must ask questions that you can talk to your spouse about. Yeah. And I mean, I think just, again, having the conversations, even if you don't agree, just to like open up that space. And I mean, so cool if you have a partner that you can just sit within that space and be okay with differences. I think that's awesome. But not a lot of us have that in our relationship. Right. So, and I know it's not ideal for most people. So you're literally just going, you know, paycheck to paycheck and also trying to deal with whatever he or she has going on too, right? Yeah. So it is a challenge. Like you're dealing with a lot of outside forces. When it comes to money, it's really never about the money. It's always about something else. It is. It's never about the money. It's about something else. And something you're not getting in the relationship or a family dynamic. Let's not get started with like, you know, we always joke about the proverbial mother-in-law, but I mean, it's everything, right? It's the in-laws, it's the sister, it's the brother, it's, you know, my dad got remarried or my mom got remarried and now I don't like the step parents. Like there's always some family dynamic for almost everyone. So it's navigating that with money too is a real challenge. Yeah. And especially when I'm dealing with estate planning with clients, right? So now we're dealing with like end of life. Here's the money. And like, these are things people just don't want to talk about because people don't want to talk about death. I make jokes about death, but I've also come to, again, you and me probably selling life insurance. I came to grips with death very early on because I would be handing out these these life insurance payouts. Yeah. So I joke about that. I know a lot of people my age, heck, even 80-year-olds that haven't dealt with how to deal with death too. And I think that's all part of too, regardless of like what you believe spiritually or otherwise. But I mean, it all plays into this whole financial planning thing. Couples, estate planning, family dynamics. There's so many things to navigate and it's not the same for everyone. No. And it never will be. And so asking the right questions and just, you know, a lot of times just opening the space and being of, you know, an open mind to have those conversations, I think is just really important. Oh, it's huge. And, you know, I was just thinking, as you said that, I was just thinking of when my husband and I started to have an open conversation around money. And how hard it was, despite of my openness to the concept and how often I talked and taught and mentored other people through this. But yet I had a really hard time myself having this conversation. And it was through estate planning because the one thing I did know, the pain of having to deal with all of the estate stuff when and if something happens to my husband was greater than my fear of talking to him about it. And that is when we had a sit down. And this brings me to another really important point that you keep making throughout the book. And I think it is so essential we talk about this right now, is having the mentorship or a coach to help you through this. So in your business, you talk about having a financial coach. Yes. In my business, I would talk about having a business coach. But it doesn't matter at the end of the day what the title is. The fact of the matter is that some of these conversations are tough to have, and we don't know them because we weren't modeled to have those conversations, maybe by our parents or by our caregivers. So why not hire someone who knows how to have these conversations, or who's unbiased and can actually be the mediator between the two, or have the right questions that we actually need to address, so we don't get sucked into the emotional piece of money or such. So you talk about having a coach, period, like a financial coach. So tell us a little bit more about your experience of sorry, it's okay.
I just have something in my throat.
Your experience of how you've been able to help families by being a coach to them on the financial side of things.
Well, I think it's just when I'm sitting down with clients and I'm asking them the questions about their, what their goals are with their money at the end of their life, or even while they're young. I mean, I have these conversations with 20-year-olds. It doesn't really matter your age, right? But like what it's done for families is it creates this amazing peace of mind. And also the friction is so much less when you can have these conversations while you're healthy, for starters, than when you're on your deathbed. Because that's when there's so much other stress involved at that point in time. You kind of miss the boat almost. But really just like being able to, and like this is kind of almost like my deep purpose here, is to make relationships good and to have these to have strong and healthy relationships with whatever family member that is, whether that's your parents or your kids or your husband or your whoever, but have those strong relationships and loving relationships. That's the most important part. And money, again, is just a tool. It's just there to help us and serve us. It's not the be all end all. And it does break my heart when people go through these estate challenges or, something happens like these financial hardships and they're not prepared for it. It does break my heart because at the end of the day, it's going to be causing them emotional pain in their relationships in reality. Right. And it's just how they're, dealing with it. So having a coach, having anything, I agree, have coaches. I have coaches for everything. And I think it's so awesome because, I can really see the progress in my life.
Yes.
I remember sitting there before I even sent in my manuscript, how scary that was. Yeah. And I mean, now I have no problem writing anything and putting it out there and hitting publish. Yeah. So you grow in those things, and even doing a TV interview or anything, right? And being on camera is again, just skills you just slowly learn. And I mean, all going back together. Same with having these conversations with families, right? Yeah. It's just the little steps that you need to keep doing little bits by little bits. And it'll come together. And it may not be perfect, but I'm going to tell you, it saves a lot of blood, stress, fear, worry, everything.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more with you. And that's just it. And for those of you who may be scared of hiring a coach because you think maybe subconsciously that, your life is going to change so dramatically that you won't recognize yourself anymore in it, or maybe that you are alienating yourself from the people surrounding you. I speak to what you just said, which is it's a slow and steady process. So it's not like you're going to wake up one day to the other and you're a completely different person. It's slow and steady and consistent and intentional progress towards becoming the better self that you want to be, or the following the vision that you want to see your life to be. So I really, really loved reading your book, Lisa. I think there is so much wisdom in here, and it's not just about financials, but it's so much more than that, because like you say, your money touches us in every aspect, but really the money just draws out what the bigger issues maybe are underneath it all, right? And that's what you've covered very well in here. So I strongly encourage everyone to go out and buy a copy and read Lisa's book, Strut, How to Kick Financial Ass. I love it. Assets. In sexy heels. And And I also want to just, because we promised, we'll give away the number one thing that no woman will regret investing in. What is it?
Oh, that's yourself. Definitely invest in yourself.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah. So whether that is through, having a coach or having someone on your side, whether it is buying that really sexy pair of heels that just make you feel that much better, or whether it is, going on a trip for yourself, and whether that's a retreat or whether that's just a trip to the sun, hanging out at the beach. Invest in yourself. Yeah. I love that. So awesome. Yeah. So thank you so much, Lisa, for all of the wisdom and vulnerability and experiences and your fantastic sense of humor to bring a little bit of a lighter side to all topics relating to money, because I know it is a stressful topic for most of us. So love that, and I want to thank you for being here and just sharing everything that you have and I've experienced with us, with the audience. So for those of you who are interested in Lisa's 10-day program, which is starting up on September 1, is that right?
Yes, September 1st.
So September 1st. It's called Appreciate, and you can find that on appreciatecourse.com. And it's a 10-day deep dive intensive into all matters of what we talked about here today, and then some. So there's a lot more. So check it out by clicking the links below this video. And again, thank you, Lisa, and I can't wait to have you back another time.
Thanks, Yvonne. This is awesome.
Great.
Yeah.
Mwah.
Mwah.
As always, the best conversations happen after the episode on YvonneWinkler.com/The Freedom Seeker Show. So go there, leave a comment, and let me know what resonated most with you and why. And while you're there, be sure to subscribe to our email list and become a Freedom Seeker Insider. You will get instant access to an audio I created called The 5 Steps to a Freedom Life, as well as some special content, exclusive giveaways, and some personal updates from me that I don't share anywhere else except maybe texting my BF.